Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game is a stealth-ish adventure game where you play as a goose who's a bit of an arsehole, rampaging through a small town with a to-do list that includes things like trap the boy in the phone box and make the groundskeeper hammer his thumb. If you like causing chaos, you'll like Untitled Goose Game. It's literally your objective to basically cause as much chaos as possible before strutting away as only a goose can onto the next area ripe for opportunities with mischief. Untitled Goose Game is essentially a game about experimentation. You're given a list of tasks to complete before you can move on to the next area, some of which are fairly self-explanatory, like raking the lake, which I'm sure you don't need me to explain. Others are more puzzle-like. They're still fairly self-explanatory, you just need to figure out how to manipulate a chain of events to accomplish your goal. Like getting the groundskeeper to hammer his thumb. And then there's something like make someone prune the prize rose, which relies on a quite complex chain of events being set in motion. You'll oftentimes find yourself wandering around an area with little to no idea what you need to do to cross off an item on your to-do list. This isn't actually a negative, however. Untitled Goose Game is essentially pulling from the same logic that powered the adventure games of the 90s. Interact with everything, experiment with everything, try everything. The game is robust enough that no matter what you do, something will happen, and it'll probably be, at the very least, amusing. The only objectives that are routinely frustrating are the ones where you have to collect a series of items and deliver them to a specific location, usually by sneaking around to avoid humans who'll chase you down to retrieve whatever you've stolen. It's not that they're bad objectives per se, and the sight of a goose running off with a bra while a woman gives chase is always funny, but that they're kind of dull and very repetitive. Most of the objects are kept in the same place in each area, and having to run the same route multiple times goes against the freeform nature of the rest of the game, which is where it's at its best. Alongside your mandatory to-do list, each area also comes with a set of optional objectives you can complete. The difference here is that this list is hidden, and you'll only know you've accomplished something when you've actually accomplished it. Your optional objectives can get pretty in-depth too, especially as you start unlocking shortcuts between areas, as some of them will require you to maneuver objects or NPCs across multiple areas to check off your list. No matter how you choose to cause chaos, you'll probably be rewarded with completing an optional objective, or at the very least, a funny scene. And trust me, watching the humans of the town scramble around as they try to deal with the carnage caused by a single goose never gets old. What helps keep these objectives feeling manageable are the simplistic controls. You've got a fairly limited amount of ways to interact with the environment in Untitled Goose Game. You can run, crouch, flap your wings, pick up and interact with context-sensitive objects, and, of course, honk. These are your tools. It's pretty easy to get to grips with, and having a limited number of interactions helps keep the game feel fairly evenly paced. My only complaint is that these controls can feel a little unintuitive at times. The titular goose isn't super easy to control, especially when running, and I've managed to mess up trying to run off with objects by getting stuck on the corners of scenery. It can be a pain, especially when you're trying to transport multiple items to a single location to get flummoxed by the corner of a wall. Picking up objects can also feel quite fiddly, especially when multiple objects are sitting in close proximity to one another. Because you don't have precise movement and the hitboxes can feel a tad inconsistent, it can take you multiple attempts to grab the item you're actually going for when there's also a knife, fork, and glass close by. If it feels like I'm trying to downplay these issues, that's because I am. They exist, and you'll definitely notice them, but Untitled Goose Game is such a fun and breezy experience that they won't impact your enjoyment too much. Sure, it can be momentarily frustrating to get stuck on the geometry of a level, or to keep picking up a knife instead of a fork, but that frustration is over before it really has a chance to take hold, and you'll be back to terrorizing the neighborhood before you know it. And if you feel like you want to let your hair down causing mayhem as a goose who is also an arsehole, then I can definitely recommend Untitled Goose Game as a fun time, particularly if you want to unleash your inner mischievous bitch for a few hours. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.